I could have many possible choices, but I don't let myself see them. And it's the not letting myself see them that I think is based so much in an old story. We can activate curiosity. We don't have to wait for it to land on us.
You realize that you've given away your own power by positioning it that way. It really removes people from being their own creative engine, like their own creative solutions. Hello, my Katie.
Hello, Sophie.
I love this blue thing going on, like very spring-like. I
I
like.
know even though we're in the middle of winter, winter where I live in California doesn't
Yes.
always look like winter,
And
but
I live in Arizona, so I
but
hear
I'm going to wear my sweaters because it's winter.
exactly. It did. It was funny. It was really cold here last week, and I was wearing my boots. I was wearing my hats, and I was like, "It's really nice." And after a day and a half, I was like, "All right, I'm done with the boots.
That's right.
I'm done with being cold."
I spent 15 years in Colorado. So, having, winter there was, an incredibly big deal. So,
No,
yeah, I
I'm
do
good with the
winter
warmth.
right now.
Exactly. So something happened this weekend that I was really curious to hear your take. A friend of mine is in a job she doesn't like. Let's just start there. And as I was talking to her about possibilities, and she was, she came to me to ask, like it was clearly an advice, seeking moment. And so as I was trying to suggest and be a bit creative about it, I think she may have said it 7 times that I tracked. It might have even been more. She kept saying, but I don't have a choice. And I kept saying, Okay, so let's look at that one. Why do you think you don't have a choice?" And then she had all these, it felt like almost like what she believes to be true. And it was more like she was looking for evidence to confirm that that was actually what was happening. And I was really curious to hear, how does that play out for you? Because I didn't even know, like after a while, I was like, I don't know what to do with you, girl. Like you convinced that this is the way it has to be a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I would call a pretty rigid context.
Yeah.
Like that, like that's her environment or her cave, or and that's a source of what we call old stories.
Mhm.
Such a common old story. I hear it a lot, and I hear it also in dramas, like on television, in the movies. There'll always be someone that says, "No, they do something awful," or they do something where you think, "What were you thinking?" And they said, "Well, but I didn't have a choice."
Yes.
And when I even hear that, I can feel like I'm in a box, and the box is getting smaller. That it's confining me, and but what I've done then is accepted that that the culture or the world has created this framework, and I have to react to that. I don't give myself a choice about how I am presencing myself, or where the actions that I'm taking, because I have my power. I've given my power away to what I call exogenous world, the
Mhm.
culture, the one that says these are the rules, this is how you do it. And making that shift, I was just wondering too about what could I do when someone comes to me with that. I don't, I didn't have a choice. So first thing that occurs to me is, where did you learn that?
Mm.
How did you, I didn't have a choice. And for me, it's in the realm of responsibility of it. There's something that happens, and, I can go this way or this way. I have to make a decision or a new action or a new agreement. But I'm in what it feels like a reactive, it's probably fear based, because
Mhm.
that's when I go, I didn't have a choice. And I feel victimy when I even say that, I didn't have a choice.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of go into a little collapse. Like, it's not mine to make a choice. I just have to follow the rules and do the best I can. And it also, whenever there's an either or which I think that I have a choice or I didn't have a choice.
Yes, is. Yes.
You know, that's an either or because I forget that I could have many possible choices, but I don't let myself see them. And it's the not letting myself see them that I think is based so much in an old story. And it's really interesting that you would say that because I have a class coming up or a year long a gathering that's going to start in March. And it's really all about shifting from the old stories that have run cultures and have run the world for centuries
Uh-huh.
into new stories. And one of them I didn't have a choice is that they made the rules
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have a choice rather
Mm-hmm.
than, hey, wait a minute. I also I help make the choices. I'm, who's in charge of my life? Who's in charge of my choices? Who's in charge of how I use my attention?
It's interesting because in some, I was thinking about driving. It came to my mind because there are some, like, I don't, red is where I stop the car, green is where I go. I guess I do have a choice and I could just run every red light. But then I feel like that's also, I do respect the fact that we are as a society, right? Like it's
Well,
different.
that is a choice. What you're just naming, I respect the rules that allow us all to live together in some kind of harmony. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, traffic laws are that sort of a thing, so that we are not in continual accidents with each other on the road. So one of the things that people that I've noticed over the years, and it's really great we're talking about traffic, is that uh, that's the rules, but I don't have to follow them.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm entitled. So I think that the what comes along with I didn't have a choice was, well, I'm entitled to do the way I'm doing it because I'm special.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not, one of the things I got really years ago is if I'm in a car, I've stepped into a context of
Mm-hmm.
rules and this is how it operates. And it's still my choice whether I am going to align with that and whether I'm going to take responsibility for keeping those agreements that I've stepped into. But most of us, that's all unconscious. And people go, oh, well, there's those traffic laws again, and I'm going to go through this stop sign here because there's nobody here.
Yeah. And it's funny because as you're saying that, particularly this energy of like, well, I'm just going to do what I want. I find that it often comes to people that don't feel like they have choices in their lives. It's like that is one place where they can like,
Right.
through the system or
Yeah.
something.
Or
But really,
I'm gonna get extra relish for my hot dog when I go through because I never get anything extra, so I'm gonna take something extra.
with whether you want it or not, really,
Right,
it's
right.
irrelevant. Yeah. And so I love the way you talk about context, and you and I often talk about this, but I'm curious to how does one I feel like people that are in that context don't even see that it's a context. Like they almost like they're in the jar and they don't see that, what's written
Yeah,
on the jar a little bit.
absolutely. Yeah, it was reminding me of this time when we were in New York, and we had come in at night, and we were in this big hotel. I forget where it was, someplace downtown, and we'd gotten up and opened the drapes, to see what kind of a day it was, if we would be able to walk around in. It was all kind of gray and gloomy. And I went, oh man, I thought the weather was going to be better here in New York. And then I realized that they had a little screen that they had put that was kind of, and
That made it look like there was fog.
yes. And so I pulled the screen up and then ta-da, but I had just accepted that, oh, it's a terrible day. But I didn't look at the context. So what kind of container am I in and how is that shaping my vision? It was such a wake up experience for me that I almost always now check. So if I have an assumption about something, I check the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of what the story. So if I've gone into the theater, there's certain rules there for going into the theater. If I'm going to the subway, there's certain rules there, and the rules are there primarily to keep us safe. Is my sense, and and that when people are not choosing into that. That is, they're going passive. They're
Mhm.
like, oh, I got to do this because they're making me do it.
Mhm.
That's where we put ourselves into a choiceless position.
Mhm. Mhm. So that's also interesting because it triggers a little bit of imagining that the world works for us, not against us. And I often find that people approach a situation with the oh, they're making me do that, or
Right,
almost like
it's gonna
not
go
not.
bad. This isn't gonna work. It's not gonna work for me. Other people are, they get more than I do. So there I think there's a negativity bias. There certainly is a negativity bias in our minds, the way that we think. But we often go into situations thinking that I don't have a choice.
Mhm.
And
So
so I'm just gonna get mine or yeah.
if someone thinks that, like I guess the first one would be to track, when I say or I experience I don't have a choice, I could already stop the horse for a second and be like, don't I? Like, do I really not have a choice here? And maybe kind of curiosity could come in a little bit,
Yes, if I because we can activate curiosity. We don't have to wait for it to land on us.
Yeah.
Actually, in any situation, activate curiosity. And one of the ways that I share with people how to do that is to create that When you literally create a there's all kinds of health benefits for the but it also generates curiosity. And it's very difficult to go into your victim when you're humming. So it just gives you that little break from seeing the world that way and creates a little bit of wonder, a little bit of curiosity in which you could ask, okay, how come I landed on those two things? I could do this or I could do that. And where did I learn that point of view or where did I see that? Or if I were to expand that just a little bit, what's a third choice?
Hmm.
And I like to actually, invent more choices. I mean,
Hmm.
the choice might seem obvious, but I like to invent more choices. It was reminding of Alice in Wonderland, where she's talking about, the things that seem impossible. Well, I've already invented six impossible things before breakfast.
Yes.
So that, encountering the way we think things limit us,
Yeah.
and expanding that also then takes us into the unknown. So if I go, I have no choice, that's really familiar to everybody. Like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, you're going to, you don't have any choice. And then we get to have a victim talking with each other, a victim speak, and, ain't it awful? And, when is it ever going to change? But it has to happen to us, right, rather than through us. And so I think that you're, opening up curiosity and then making, not the big choice, but like one new choice,
Hmm.
practicing making new choices, just like new choices about, like, see, I can make a new choice about how I'm sitting.
Hmm.
I can make a new choice about I'm going to breathe and stretch. So with my own body, I can make all of these choices
Hmm.
that literally open up my perspective, open up the sense of there are more possibilities than I'm experiencing right now.
Do you think someone, when they say, I don't have a choice, it's a way to not blame ourselves? Like, if I didn't have a choice, then, I did what I could with what I was given almost. Like, I look at me, I can't, it's not my fault.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's not you're right. It's not my fault because what I was hearing is that many humans have no choice associated with responsibility.
Yes. Hmm.
So I can't really I don't know how to genuinely take responsibility because I have it associated with blame.
Yes.
So if I'm taking responsibility, it means it's my fault rather than, oh, this is what I have been choosing. Oh, I've been choosing this thing where I always feel disappointed and I don't really get what I want. Oh, but oh, I haven't actually made a request.
Hmm.
I just let them offer me stuff and I go, oh, I can have this thing I don't like or this other thing I don't like more. Oh gosh, that's really rather than going to the root, which is that responsibility is about reclaiming your choice. Most of us, if I become response able,
Yes.
I
I'm
am
able to respond.
I'm able to respond,
Mhm, mhm.
and then, all kinds of different things, open up. But I think that the addiction to blame, because we get that adrenaline hit.
Mhm.
So even if it's blaming us, we get that adrenaline hit rather than the softer creativity that comes with actually opening to being able to respond. And that's a big journey.
I remember working with a client years ago, and it was the unions were involved, and not to generalize, but there was a bit of like, oh, it's management's fault, and I
Mm.
remember sitting there going like, there's nothing you can, if you think that way, there's nothing you can do.
Exactly.
It literally takes away your freedom to position it like, okay, maybe the management has a say, but have you proposed something else? Have you said what you wanted instead? And did sit there like, no, we just don't like it. I was
We
like,
don't like it, and we're just going to be here and pout.
and pout and pout. And it was just like, do you realize that you've given away your own power by positioning it that way?
And
Right?
what was the response? Did they get it that they were giving away their own power? Because my sense is
No.
that that's a little bit like you working with concrete. It takes quite a bit of maneuvering, and and it's heavy for most people, and they don't quite know what to do with it, and they
Well, because as you and I often talk about, it is often stems in fear. Like if I propose something, then I might get rejected, or I might get judged, or I might being told no, and then I have to
right, or
deal
or
with.
someone says that's stupid, or
Exactly. So
yeah,
by staying in my island of like, no, my fault, I did, I have no choice. In some ways, I protect myself. It doesn't work. It's an illusion, but
it's
it gives me the illusion that at least
yeah.
it needs to be done for me, or it won't happen at all. And I can imagine that it really removes people from being their own creative engine, like their own creative solutions.
Yes, the in a way it is, it's it's so passive, and for me it ties in with the fear trance that as I look around I see so much of the world and that they're kind of collapsed.
Mhm.
And I even saw people. I was at an event the other day, and one of the people who was speaking at this event, her body was in such a collapse, and I it was all I could do not to go up on stage and say, "Oh, honey, can I just? Oh, please,
Can I prop you on that chair a little?
yes, yeah, occupy yourself."
Yeah.
So that we forget that the source of our aliveness is in our ability to respond to what's going on in us and to be actively engaged in befriending ourselves and befriending fear and moving away from blame and adrenaline, because I called it familiar but miserable.
Yeah.
So and everybody knows how to play that
Yeah.
game. That's part of why I'm doing this whole year long course with different topics, like genuinely taking responsibility, so that we can create more of a menu of new choices. Because if people are in fear, it's very hard to, well, it's impossible to think. So it's very hard to create new responses if
Yeah.
you're in fear.
Yeah. So how do you've mentioned it, the course. So it's a year-long program, which I'm assuming it's because it takes a little bit of time to work with these. Those are pretty big things, it's like changing the way we think a little bit.
Exactly,
Okay. Yeah.
exactly. And this is intended, um, I'm considering it's a legacy program. So
Mhm.
all of the material in this is going to go into its own website and
Mhm.
be there for people. So what we're experimenting with, and our whole community has been creating this, and several people from the community are contributing their genius, and people are generating different things that are really exciting, like there's a whole daily planner that you can generate your own aliveness through the fear melters and using the integrity cards, but it gives you like a foundation, to experiment. And then each one of the topics is really designed to help us all generate new stories of connection, new stories of being able to be real with other people rather than, going through the, how much of myself can I show here and how much do I need to keep hidden, and how to generate, a sense of joy, that I can generate joy no matter what else is going on. So we've been exploring this for over a year,
Oh,
putting
wow.
this together. And so the idea is that we get to kind of walk each other through this, and we
Mhm,
get to have a chance to let it integrate and absorb, that we're not stressing ourselves to try and learn one more thing. I know,
mhm.
but we're really experimenting with just the kind of thing we're talking about today. Is how am I experiencing this old story of like other people are more important than me, or I can't be real here, or I just can't get things done. I don't know how other people do that, but
Oh, I'm so
then
busy. I'm busy. I'm so yeah,
I'm so busy. I don't have time for this. So
right.
those are all old stories, but we don't really even hear them
Mhm,
because we get the. I think what drives them all is the adrenaline juice.
mhm, mhm,
That's like being on the roller coaster,
mhm.
and just as soon as people get off the roller coaster, they go and find another roller coaster. And once you're strapped in, you're on the ride. And it's very, people don't understand. You get that hit of, yeah, but it's not, adrenaline is not a renewable resource.
No, it's just a hit. It's just like it just gives us a little
Yeah, it's the same thing all the time. It's like, it's
yeah.
home alone. And then you get that hit, but then it wears off very quickly, and you can be exhausted from it. And so then people need to get more adrenaline, and that's where people get all kinds of ways of generating adrenaline: conflict, and fear, and and blame,
Mhm.
rather than the vulnerability of letting yourself be authentic, with other people. And one of the first things we're going to look at is actually letting people in.
Mhm.
And, one of the things I so value about being with you is that I feel you let me in.
Mhm,
And I can feel I let you in, so
mhm,
that I'm affected by what you say and
mhm.
your presence. But for many people today, I think that they're armored,
Yeah.
and that they don't feel it's safe to let anybody in.
Yeah.
And so they're not literally not getting the nourishment of connection.
Mhm.
So this epidemic of isolation and depression that we're experiencing, particularly here, in the West, I think is very much about that being back in my own silo,
Mhm.
and I don't trust anybody, and then that just feeds on itself.
Which is how do we it seems like a tall order. As you're describing it, it feels like people have really it is a little bit like we stop when it's red and we go when it's green, except it's not a very functional like I feel like it's really gonna ask a lot of people to look at things differently and to look at themselves differently.
Yes, but I'd like them to also look at the alternative.
Yes.
if
Oof.
we, if we
Yes.
just, if you just let yourself be on the ride, this is lemmings going over the cliff at time. So if we're not taking responsibility, it's like, oh, this is the way we're going, and then
And then
over.
poof, we fall over the thing.
Mhm.
I'm curious to, in your personal journey, was there a moment where, because I remember once telling a story about something that had happened in my childhood, and I saw that I wasn't lying exactly, although I think it was lying. Like I was exaggerating it, I was making it a little bit more dramatic, but it really wasn't exactly what happened, but it was
Uh,
confirming, it was kind of giving me this like, well, see, that's what happened to me. There was
it,
like a,
it
right?
was confirming your old story about you.
Yes, it was. And also with what had happened to me and, justified a
Yeah,
little bit of what, it was quite yummy. There really is something to this being familiar.
yeah, it's very. Oh,
Yeah, a little bit. For those who
yeah.
don't see the video, she's literally sucking her thumb, just so we're just in case you're not seeing this visual. But it has this kind of like blanky, but wait, if my mommy was actually not someone who didn't care about me, then what happens to my story? Like it really and I wonder if people are gonna need to make a really big leap to let go of all that stuff, let go of the old. And I'm assuming the year-long classes
That's
because
part of why it's a year long, but it also is really intended to be friendly.
Mhm.
Because part of what I think has happened now in this last period of time is that people bully themselves
Yeah, yeah,
and and push themselves and what's the matter with you and are trying to motivate themselves from criticism
yeah.
because we think that works. And so, one of the big first shifts is to recognize when I'm criticizing myself and then deliberately shift. So, that's one of the first new choices. So, when I'm criticizing, I'm going to shift into one of them that really works is creating an appreciation right in the moment.
Mm,
That doesn't work, creating another one, and it might take up to five
mm.
to actually shift your state, but it does work. We've been doing this for years and years, and I know that it works and people have tried it out. And so when I've moved out of that criticizing myself, then the world looks different.
Yes.
And then choices open up rather than I didn't have a choice because they made me. It's usually, it's some version of that.
Do you think someone who takes the year-long class could really hope to come out with, I feel like you're giving us, in what you're saying right now, a new set of, like it was like a new school, like
Yes.
a new way of thinking, a new way of like,
It's a new curriculum.
it feels
And
like that.
and one that I've given attention to for decades and has moving from fear into presence,
Mhm.
moving from, I have to do this to how is, how is my genius wanting to be expressed in the world? Like, how can I do what I love
Mhm.
that makes a difference in the world rather than I got to get a profession so that I can get ahead so that, so that I'm not starving.
Uh-huh.
It's a completely different motivation. And but here's the thing that is really astounding is that it truly is one choice at a time.
Mhm.
What we tend to do is mountainize,
Yes.
catastrophize, make it, oh my God, I couldn't possibly take that kind of a leap. Well,
Right.
you're not going to start with that. You're going to start with, are you going to go this direction, or maybe a completely new direction?
Right. But it's one step at a time. It really truly
One,
is one.
literally one step at a time. And that can be, the new choice. It is really, I think, foundational. It's kind of like the Lego blocks of what
Mhm.
we're going to be experimenting with, and that each of us can learn how to make a new choice right now.
Mhm.
And yeah,
It also feels like it would invite more being more authentic. Like I feel like sometimes yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I just
Like yes,
oh,
milk and honey.
authenticity. I yearn for authentic. Well,
Yeah.
my sense is that authenticity is number one. When people are being authentic, it's a kind of aliveness that
Yeah.
is so um, generative. It's so contagious that people go, "Oh, what was that?"
Yeah.
And it opens doors, and dust flies out. When people are being authentic, you can't predict. And
Yeah.
that authenticity, I think, like for partnerships, authenticity is the sexiest thing you can do.
Ah, so sexy.
Yeah,
But
rather
particularly because it surprises us. Like
it's surprising that
when my partner
ooh,
goes after, so like he literally he did it this weekend where he went inside, asked a question, and he went inside, and I thought he was going to answer one thing, and he totally answered something else, and I just sat there like, oh, this is so delicious. Like I really was super super like turned on, like
yes.
sexually lively, whatever it was, but it was just like it like lit up the room.
Yes. And we each have that power. We don't have to be kind of slogging along and the same old, same old. So, authenticity, although when people are first learning how to be authentic, it can be quite scary
Yeah.
because we've had experiences early in our life of being authentic and then being squashed or having,
Yes.
I can remember being authentic, coming home from school in first grade, and I was so excited about what I was learning, and I was sharing it at the table, and I was going, and my mother says, "Well, aren't you a little know-it-all?"
Yeah.
And I just went, "Bleh."
I just want to hug you right now.
I know, like, I'm gonna just hug myself for a moment, and I truly, I mean, that was it.
Yeah.
With my sharing, I just said, "Oh, not safe to do that here."
Yeah.
So that's an old story that
Yeah.
I realized that I had been continuing to repeat,
Uh-huh.
in my adult life as if I didn't have a choice.
Yes. We all do. That's what's beautiful with the work I find that I've all along with the years I've known you. I feel like there's one more layer. Like my integrity is 1,000% more than it was then, but still I can catch myself say something and I'm like, that could have been a little bit more authentic. Or someone invites me to something and I really don't want to go. And I'm like, no, because blah, 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 to be nice. It's like, no, it's a full sentence. I don't need to justify that I don't want to go to this party where people are going to be drunk or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's like, I just love that it brings so much kindness to,
Mm.
because it's not about getting it all in one place or not or nothing. It really is about, even the definition of the word integrity has changed for me, like what it meant 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when you and I would started talking about this. I feel like I truly, in my most willing and openness, I didn't really know what it means, but that I know now. And so to be
Yes.
kind about ourselves, to ourselves about all this, I think is a really big component.
A really big component, and what was just floating into my mind as you were saying that is the word practice.
Yeah.
That what I intend and is to give people all kinds of practices,
Uh-huh.
many practices that so that people can choose practices that bring them joy, that allow them to shift, that are kind, that allow them to build their choices. So, because I've been practicing, for example, I've been practicing meditation for over 40 years.
Hmm.
And it's not like I go, okay, I got it.
Hmm.
But
Done.
it's the practice that actually brings the aliveness. So the
Mhm.
practice of being real, the practice of choosing, the practice of appreciating, those all expand. First, they expand our aliveness.
Mhm.
And then they expand our ability to actually connect with others
Mhm.
and to feel the connection, to actually receive the connection, the nourishment of connection. But the big one is that we get to collaborate.
That's good. Mm.
So and create something new rather than same old, because most collaboration is just a new iteration of
Of
the
the
same old
same.
recipe.
Oh, so true. And as you were talking, I was thinking about the very thing we're doing here. Like I often hear feedback of people that have listened to an episode and they'll say, like, how do you do it? And it sounds like this year participating with you, I feel like it almost becomes like a workshop. Like let's workshop these ideas. Like I want to be
Yes.
more authentic, but it scares the crap out of me.
Yes.
Well, come practice it. Come learn to do it in a way. Like sometimes when I'm talking to you, I experience myself autocorrect in a very loving way, but I'll say
Yeah.
something, I'll be like, oh, there could even be a deeper layer. Oh, wow. When I say that, like I accompany myself. But to have an environment where for a year I could, let me talk about a school and a curriculum, exactly that, just to
Ah, that
relearn these
you're
habits.
and you're with friends practicing.
Yeah.
And so you can come as you are, you can be as you are, you can have friends on the journey of learning. And Gay will, to this day, he will autocorrect in live.
Yes. Yes.
So because
Enough.
he'll hear it and it's not quite matching, it's not
Yes.
quite resonating, and he'll just correct it. And
Yes.
I can feel the
The
additional
difference.
aliveness and opening from that. So I get to benefit anybody in the vicinity. So we don't have to be perfect,
Yes.
and we don't have to sort of land it, like it's a one-time deal. It really is the practice of enjoying more and more love and appreciation, and the exchange of creativity, and beauty, and sort of that's it.
I sneeze. My grandmother used to say, when you sneeze and someone's talking, it's being that the truth is being spoken. You were literally,
Goosebumps.
oh, I loved it. I loved it. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but I
No,
really
no,
loved.
no. The interruptions are all part of it.
I love the way you were describing, and I have seen Gay do it, and I've certainly modeled it, where it's like, oh no, it's not exactly my right shoe size, almost like
Yes.
it's a little tight over here, and then to kind of move ourselves towards. But it does require an act of self-love. Like, I don't have it perfectly. I'm going to practice with you, and then actually, and sometimes I talk to you so that I hear myself. Be like,
Yes.
how is that reflecting in you? Because I could see it in your face. I see the difference when I'm sending something to you and it's lending, as my truth, as my correct, kind of expression versus not. Like, sometimes your face is a little more like you kind of like, give me more. Like, and then
Come
I
on.
will.
Yeah.
Exactly. But to be able to do that with ourselves, to learn the skill
Yeah.
where we can have our inner Katie. I have an inner Katie. I know her very well. I hang out with her a lot. But to just have this reflected to us where we can truly, like, it reminds me of that story. I've mentioned her a couple of times. A friend of mine here who was in a car accident lost her ability to censor anything. And she just says exactly,
She just blurts.
she just blurts. And then I introduced her to someone and I said, this is my friend who blurts. She blurts all she wants. And my other friend who doesn't said, wow, I wish I was able to do that. And we laughed and we were like, you are able to do that.
Yes,
You don't
exactly.
need to get into a car accident, to remove your.
Well, and she would, might have responded inside herself, well, I don't have a choice.
Yes. Yes. I don't think I can say my
I
truth.
just don't think I
That's
can.
why I said that. That's why.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So when there's such a tie in here with, we're really talking about responsibility and authenticity and appreciation, which are really the sort of the triad that all of our work is based on. When somebody matches
Mm.
that what they're saying matches their inner experience, there's a kind of a lining up. It's almost like a fountain
Yes.
that goes
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
this aliveness that's available to anybody who's in the vicinity.
Yeah.
It's that kind of so there's no wobbles, there's no debris, there's no static. It's just the expression of life energy. And to be in the presence of that, I think can really be life changing for people because
Yeah.
most of us have not seen it, experienced it. We don't know how to do it. But when we're in that,
We know, we recognize it.
we know. Yeah.
Mhm. Ah, that's beautiful. Well, we'll have all the information in our notes about this class. I would like to take the class. I want to come play with you in the class.
Well, I want to come play with you also. Yeah, I've been intent on this. We were going to do it last May, and then, Gay had two more surgeries, and also I thought, no, the timing isn't quite right.
Yeah.
But now
Navigate.
I think the timing. Also, we are considering this really to be a haven for people.
Oh, yeah, we need, oh, my body just relaxed so much hearing that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you as always for this conversation and all that you do and have done
Mhm.
to bring consciousness to all these things and these topics. And I can see in people the conversations changing, and I know where it comes from, and a lot of it's
Mhm.
from you and your work. So thank you for that. And you'll have
Oh,
anyone who wants to come and join Katie and
yes, just come and
come
we'll
and
leave
play with us.
information
Come,
about
be, play.
yeah who you can talk to get more information and all that. We'll leave
It
that.
will all be in the thing. Yes. Thank you. I love you.
Oh, thank you. I love you.